The highest level of sales isn't what people think. Sales traditionally is held in a negative light. It's seen as pushy, obnoxious. People, even though I love the scene in this movie, Glengarry Glen Ross, where he just kind of goes off on people, I see the humor in it, right? But it's an exaggeration, and that's how people see sales. Now, unfortunately, because sales isn't treated as an art form, as a science of communication, and really taken seriously, people are taught very generic things. They understand that people are indecisive, so they think, hey, if we just pressure people or push them, we're going to get them to make a decision. And again, I'm talking higher level sales, nuanced sales, where we understand behavioral psychology, evolutionary psychology, neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, understandings of the conscious and subconscious mind, people's emotional state, the emotional tone scale. I'm talking about having such an extensive understanding of the human being and communication that we can now create a way of communicating that guides people and that doesn't fall under that traditional definition of what we think sales is. So when I say high sales, high level sales is completely different. What I mean by it is it's pleasant. Your customer enjoys speaking with you. They come back. They willingly give you referrals. They enjoy the customer experience. None of it feels forced. None of it feels pressured. And ultimately, this is the level of sales that I believe I've achieved, what I teach to my team, what I teach to my students, and what I've been pushing out there to the internet for a long time. And it's one of the reasons that I think a lot of people continuously come back to me for my channel is I've taken an interesting twist on it. I've incorporated so many other schools of thought and knowledge and understanding that it's turned it into this new creation, especially through my own experimentation, that intrigues people. It fascinates them. I looked at sales originally and saw, because the base is communication, that there's a lot you can do with it. And what I saw, the traditional practitioners of it and people that spoke about it, right? I said, man, they're not appreciating it like I am. They're not seeing it like I am. I want to take it to a completely different stratosphere. And that's kind of what I did. And I think a few other people have probably done that in the world too. I haven't met them yet. But it's one of those things where if you treat it and see it as an art form, you can really take it to another level. As an example, the customers that I deal with, right? Let's say I do a traditional in real estate, a listing appointment where we go and we meet with somebody and we're talking about listing their home. Virtually in every case, I get the contract signed on the spot. And in many cases, I have to ask many times for them to sign. However, there's no pressure. I'm not telling them sign right now and this and that. So although from the outside, the definition would be, well, you got them to sign on the spot, you must have pressured them. If you were to be in the room, if you were to interview the client, they would give you a completely different definition and experience. So with that said, that's what we're talking about here. Because when we get to the higher level of sales, one of the principal things behind it is everything that we do, everything that's designed around it is all looked at based on how the customer is going to feel. If the customer feels good, then again, when I look at the material, what was said, what outside opinions are, I don't care, because the communication is solely created in context, which we'll discuss later, but primarily with the thought of I want the customer to feel good, to feel comfortable. And I cater my presentation, my flow, my words, the emotional states that I create in them, the mental imagery that I give them through my communication to create that, right? So it's cultivated around that. I want to curate a unique experience for that individual in my dealings with them, but most importantly, in my presentations. So the nuance of understanding their preferred communication method and when I contact them, right? Understanding their personality type and how they view and process the world and what representational systems they use to then deliver a presentation that's more catered towards that. So it feels to them as if it's unique, right? You're going to hear this guy meow a little bit. He's looking out the window and probably sees a bunch of lizards and birds out here in South Florida. What's up, buddy? So that's number one. Number two, real quick, I mentioned it earlier, communication is in context. Higher level sales and communication takes this into consideration because when I say communication is in context, meaning I can't just give you a one size fits all answer. Because a lot of people will read something that I said, or listen to something that I said and they're like, oh, that wouldn't work or that's obnoxious, but they're missing out. Communication's in context. I don't care what people think about it. The same word or phrase that I use right now in this video may be extremely effective here and absolutely ineffective. The same word, same sequence, same tonality, same everything in a different moment, in the same video or in a different conversation or moment, because communication is always in context. So when you learn a tool, a technique, a language pattern, you have to be able to, through your experience and skill and expertise, then be able to identify the right moment to use it. You see, so as we start describing this thing more in detail, you start to see it's a lot more nuanced than people think, and it requires a lot more effort and understanding and training to really get to that level, because there is no one size fits all, and people believe on the outside, and even people who are in sales right now, it's the one size fits all. You just use this script and that's it. So typically you'll go to a sales trainer, they'll give you an objection handler for a particular objection. They might give you one or two or maybe three, and that's it, right? Shit, when I look at the script book that I have for my students and my coaching members, I think out of the first 10 pages, 12 pages, it's the actual script, like what we say for different lead sources. But there's probably an additional 60 pages in that first manual with objection handlers. Meaning, if somebody gives you an objection on price or commission or whatever it is, I have probably caked into that book alone, not including other ones, 8 to 10 to 12 responses for each objection. And I denote there, depending on the context, the type of client, right? So I've created so much more and gotten so much more into detail, and that gives you so many more tools to your arsenal, because you have to start looking at it that way if you want to get to that top percentage. And I've been parts of a lot of events and trainings, and I'm thankful for them, but they established the foundation and gave me the baseline. I then myself decided to take it to a completely different level. So when you start studying different subjects, right? Like as an example, when I started studying hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming, it gave me a completely new understanding of sales, because from that moment, I realized I need to sell myself at the highest levels, influence myself, change myself, persuade myself at those highest levels before I can ever expect to create that same effect on somebody else. And prior to this video, you may not have ever heard that if you're still watching. Meaning, I know today, me, Bryan Casella, I can influence and persuade people at a very high level because I first went inward and persuaded, sold, influenced myself to the highest degrees possible with something as simple as honoring my word, because from there comes congruency. Higher level sales, take notes, congruency, meaning if I expect my clients to pay me a full commission, a handsome fee for my services, well, I, in my own life, better be paying full commission and handsome fees for services that I seek. How am I going to be a top salesperson and be congruent if I am a cheapskate cutting corners, looking to save a penny on every decision that I make, yet go out there with a straight face and full confidence and tell my clients, yes, you need to pay me a premium compared to everybody else because I'm worth it? You would be incongruent. And this is why a lot of people fail to sell at a high level, is internally they're incongruent. And I knew that, which is why I started doing little trainings and conditioning things for myself to get myself to that level. I used to be a cheapskate because that's how I was raised. Traditional, anybody watching this who's a traditional Hispanic will tell you, your family just wants to, save, go to the swap meet. It's in our cultures, right? It's normal. And I'm not going to say it's bad. However, if you want to reach a level of affluence, if you want to start rubbing shoulders with people who really make money, have a high net worth, and have a mentality and understanding and wiring around money that's conducive to you growing and making lots of money and multiplying money, you can't keep that mindset. You have to change it. So if I'm going out there and selling a premium product or service that I expect people to pay full price for, I can't in my life be trying to penny pinch. It doesn't work. You're incongruent. So it's something you need to understand. And although that's not a sales technique, that's an internal rewiring and job and work that people have to do, that then on the surface will then create in that presentation, in that moment, that extra oomph you need to really have somebody look at you and say, okay, I'm going to do this. And a lot of people are messing up there. They're lacking that congruency. And if you understand that second point that I said right now of congruency, that absolutely will change everything in your life, but especially your ability to persuade and influence another human being, because you're not being hypocritical. People, whether they're great at communicating or not, are primed subconsciously to read and pick up on things from other people. And many of you lose a sale because of incongruencies like this and other things that subconsciously are screaming at people and they're picking up on it. Just like if we're out and a person approaches us with an agenda where, they want something or they're going to try to talk to us just to get a buck out of us or engage in a conversation where they just want something, you can feel it as they walk up. Why? Their body language and something subliminally screams from them, I have an agenda, I'm just here to get something from you. So we all naturally pull away. So either that person has to learn, even though they have that agenda, all the body language cues and all that to fool you, or they need to come from a place of non-neediness, not seeking rapport, and open up a dialogue the right way, being completely neutral. Then you would be a lot more likely to engage. It doesn't guarantee it, but it's going to increase that percentage tremendously. So you got to be congruent. You got to be congruent. And that was a tough one for me, because then you have to really go into your mind and go down to the deepest levels of your identity and your values and your beliefs, which if you studied NLP, you'll learn this stuff. At the core, your identity. Then right above that, your values and your beliefs. If those things, again, are not aligned with you being wealthy, being a great communicator, and all those things, you're never going to have them. If you at your core think salespeople are evil, rotten, bad, horrible, they need to get a real job. If you believe that and then you yourself want to persuade at the highest levels, guess what? You're never going to do it. If you don't value at that level being a excellent and superb communicator, wanting to diversify your vocabulary, be able to tell exhilarating stories and capture people, develop charisma and charm, and all those things associated with communication. If that at your core is not something that you value, that you believe in, and that you really want, you're never going to be a top salesperson. Because this third point that I want to add to this is that you have to champion communication in your life. You have to value it tremendously. You have to see it as one of the most important things for you to continuously get better at and better at and better at. Because then you'll engage with people every day. You'll read the books, you'll study, you'll go to events, you'll get coaching and training to help, speech coaches, right? Like all that stuff. I'm going to practice my enunciation. I'm going to develop my vocabulary. I'm really going to take communication seriously. And that's the cool thing that I think a lot of people pick up on as they join my communities and coaching and training and all that, is they see, they're like, wow, that's one of the number one out of many comments that I get, is that like, wow, this is so much more nuanced and there's so much more to this than I thought. And the people who really buy in are the people who are getting very, very good at sales very quickly. I even have people in my group who just want to become better public speakers who have nothing to do with the sales industries, but they're in here anyway to really refine and develop their communication skills. Because again, it goes back to this point. They value it. They champion that and said, okay, this communication is going to be a top priority in my life among some other things right now. And then everything begins to change. You'll appreciate this format more that I do, where I just turn the camera on, speak, no cuts, no edits, boom. Because you would know and recognize that this person has to be a higher level communicator to be able to do this for 15, 20, 30 minutes nonstop without really making mistakes. And back in the day, I made a ton of mistakes, which is why my videos were shorter. And I had notes and all that. Now I don't have any notes. I'm not reading anything. But somebody who doesn't care is going to say, well, I have the attention span of a fly and you need the jumps and it's got to be fancy for me to watch it, right? Most people, they don't value this. They don't understand and recognize the amount of poise, confidence, and skill it would take to do this. And I do this day in and day out for trainings, coaching, Zoom, YouTube videos, podcasts, whatever it is. You see, but when you value it, you enjoy this. I relish in this stuff. I shine in these moments. Same thing with interactions, right? I support one of my friends out here in Miami. I'm helping him build his business of, being a trainer, right? He focuses on calisthenics, which is something I've been doing for years. So I try at the gym and other places to invite people to go, and our classes are growing and growing and growing. I think today, his third class, we had like 15 people, and the first class had maybe a handful. So it's growing steadily over and over. But I'm doing my best to communicate with people and uplift the environment. You would all agree that if you go to a place, what really becomes a determining factor if the experience of the night or the evening or day or lunch or whatever was high or low. Typically, it's the conversation and the communication that was had there. If it was fun, if it was flowing, if it was exhilarating and great and engaging, you loved it. If it was flat, not there, non-existent, it was that. A lot of people complain about this in dating. Well, most people aren't great communicators. I could be with a girl that I absolutely have zero interest in, but I know she'll have a good time. Why? Because I know how to communicate and tell stories and lead and be engaging and be charming and all that stuff. You can learn this stuff. That's the beauty, and that's how I'll tie the bow on this video. All of this, unlike physical attributes, being tall, being born genetically gifted and all that, this anybody can learn. Anybody can master communication if they dedicate themselves. Anybody. I believe this coming in because I was never the person that would have been told or coined as, oh, he's going to be a great speaker. But I've helped enough people now, thousands at this point over the years. I've been around for about 13 years now in the sales and real estate industry, and probably coaching now for at least 6 or 7 of those 13 years. I'm telling you, I've helped so many people now. I believe anybody, anywhere, any place, any religion, ethnicity, language, whatever, can master communication if they dedicate themselves. That's the key. You got to believe and you got to dedicate yourself. But when it's a priority to you, like I mentioned earlier, and you really champion it, it's a given. But see, whether it's your home life, your friends, your spouse, with your children, at your job, wanting to become a social media creator, doing trainings for your team or your company, you start to see how important communication is. I cringe when I watch Shark Tank a lot because some people with multi-million-dollar ideas come crashing down because for 2 or 3 minutes, they can't do a basic pitch and answer a few questions, and they fall apart. There's some brilliant minds on this planet, yet we think they're dorks because they don't know how to communicate. Or their brilliance is undermined by the fact that they're not great communicators, when all they need to do is put in some work on their communication skills, and we would admire them that much more. I am blown away that through the years, through social media, people have dedicated their careers to my team. People have paid me thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for coaching. People have flown across the country to come to my events. People have come from other countries to come to my events, all because I decided to make videos, speak in this way, dedicate myself to learning and mastering communication, and then sharing that with the world along the way for the last 12 or 13 years. It's incredible. That's the power of communication. Maybe this video sparks the idea for you to change and you finally take action. Good, then it served its purpose. That's the power of communication. Words, how they affect your emotions, can move you, literally. They can cause you to change your perspective on something, elevate your mood, completely change your mind about something, rewire your identity, your values, and your beliefs. Communication. Communication is directly tied to the mind. That's what I love about studying subjects such as neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis. I got master certifications in all of them. Master hypnotist, master super mega certified practitioner in NLP, whatever the official one is. I did like 3 or 4. I can't even remember now. But I say that to people, oh, why are you studying that? What does that have to do with sales or communication? Everything. Why? Because people think they know what those subjects are. You think hypnotism is just stare at the thing? No! It's about the conscious mind, the subconscious mind. Communication. What I love about hypnosis is, and even though I don't practice it with like a practice like people can come in, right? I've done those sessions with people and I usually do them only by special request. But somebody, and this is one thing I disagree about hypnosis, is in certain cases, somebody has to give up their mind, in quotes, for you to go in there. I'd rather equip somebody with the tools to go into their own mind and make the changes that they see fit. Now, I'll do it, but you have to take it with extreme honor, reverence, and responsibility to do that if you're helping somebody. And it's fine, it's honorable work. But I believe it's even more impactful and powerful to give people the tools to be able to do that themselves, which is what I've done with hypnosis and NLP and how I've laced it into all the training, everything that I do that people can use for marketing, conversations, right? Email, public speaking. It's cool. Personal evolution and change, which is something that's one of the pillars in my life and what I teach people, because it's all about the betterment of us, the betterment of the individual, which then will in turn make the group, the community, the collective better, which is what this is about. But it's all based on communication. You want to be a top level salesperson and have the ability to earn as much or more than professional athletes and actors, then this is the game that you want to be in and that you want to play. And most importantly, that you need to master. Check out the description. I have everything there about free giveaways, the sales quiz that I created. That's the newest one. Make sure you check it out. That'll help you a lot, especially if you guys are in any type of sales field. It'll be helpful for you. I also have other resources for realtors and other people as well. You can browse my website to see if anything tickles your fancy. All right, we'll see you on the next one.